I'm going to go through the options for the numbers and backgrounds for the 2019 onwards Yamaha R3. So here we have the front nose number plate, and we just have a few options. This is if you would like to just have the other number on the tail. These two are for the tail end of the belly pan. But I've seen a lot of exhausts requiring bigger cutouts on one side of the belly pan. So I have this here designed as well. This sits towards the front. So I'm just going to go through installing each of these. The likes of these for the belly pan's pretty straightforward. And then these ones here, there's just a little bit more work involved. So what I would do first is clean the fairings in the surrounding area to make sure that there's no dust or the likes of insects or any other sort of oily residue. Then the likes of a squeegee, it can be helpful, but if you don't have one of those, the likes of a debit card or a driver's license is suitable as well. And then just finally a heat gun. You could also get away with using the likes of a hairdryer as well. With the front number plate, same with the tail, because it's going on to a symmetrical area on the front and rear of the bike, and there's curvature to both sides. The way I would start these is removing backing paper down the center. So I create 3 tears. So you can see that there's maybe about 50 mil wide, and it just means whenever I go to apply in place, if I need to reposition it, peel it off and lean it over to one side a couple of mil, that's a lot easier done than compared to having all of the backing paper off. And the reason I take the backing paper out of the center is because of the curvature. If I started on one side, there's a bigger likelihood that by the time I would get to the other side, it would have worked its way off in a different angle that you wouldn't have been happy with. Now with the front number plate, normally on these pieces I like to get directly square on in front, so I can see as much as possible and try and guide it into place. I apply these decals dry as well. Some of my customers have applied them wet and squeegeed the excess soapy water out of them and seem to have gone well, although I've always just stuck to applying them dry. So applying them dry means as soon as it touches down, that's it in that place. So I've familiarized myself with the location for this number plate. And your kind of 2 reference points is the top 2 points, and you can see that it follows the shape of the screen. So it's looking pretty central. So what you can do now, so if I wasn't happy, I could just peel this off and lean it over to whatever side it's needed. And it's not uncommon for me to have to do this quite a few times on occasion. And the reason that I would do it as well, persevere with taking it off, putting it back on, is to, this here is going to be on the bike for the season ahead or for a number of years potentially, so might as well make the effort at the time and try and get it looking as perfect as possible. So now I'll just remove backing paper from one side, and I'll try and work at it evenly from sort of top to bottom. If I was, because it's kind of curving both ways, if I was to focus just all the way down here, it'd be highly likely that it would require a lot extra work up here. Excess vinyl would start to bunch up, and it just make life difficult. You can kind of lead it to where you want. So there's a bit of a white or yellow gap, yellow paint showing, and if I could, I'd probably like to try and lead this in to close that just for visual, which can be done. I'm applying quite a bit of pressure with my thumb. I'll probably just use a bit of heat. And then do the same for the other side. I will probably do a couple of different styles for the R3 number plate. This background or number plate shape was fine for this number because it's 2 digits, but if it was 3, it kind of makes it a bit harder to squeeze in. So if there's 3 digits, I would probably run it up onto the screen. So the blue will come across here, and it would just allow to lift it up a little. And if I see any creases or bubbles forming, I'll just lift it up and reapply. Or if it gets really hard, then that's whenever I would use the heat gun. So you can see that made light work of those creases that were building up. I was just able to basically glide my thumb over the top. Yeah, the reason I leave the heat gun to later on is once it's hot, it's quite light and flimsy, and it can sort of stretch, and I don't really like to distort lines or graphic detail like these printed numbers. You would sort of see it become, the straight lines become wavy. But yeah, that's it for the front number plate, which has gone on very nicely. So I will show you the tail next. So with the tail, very similar to the front nose, we want to clean the area, pay particular attention to these sort of little ridges or different lines, or to make sure that whenever we go to apply this, that it gets all the help it can get, as some of these on the R3 tail in particular is pretty deep. So same thing, we've removed the strip out of the center, and familiarize yourselves with where we want it to go. So with me standing directly behind, I can locate, try my best visually to locate the center point. I'm just going to hold it at this end and lead it back down. I've tried a few different ways with applying this to the R3 tail over the last couple of years. Sometimes the wrapping commercial vehicles, a lot of the install techs will hold it over the top, heat it, and then press down into it. Not sure if it's because this one's deeper, but whenever I have tried that in the future, I've seen that they have lifted. So now what I do is actually lead it down into these sort of ridges. I have been able to do quite a bit as well without having to resort to the heat gun. Obviously as well, wash your hands beforehand. You see that I am touching the adhesive side quite a bit. So now we've got it down into this first area. There might be some creases or ridges to work out, but it's looking pretty nice. Same thing, just working back and forward evenly from top to bottom. Another thing as well, I try to keep it further back a bit from the edge, from this radius, with riders whenever they are on the straights and they're sitting back. You don't want it eventually rubbing on their leathers and lifting and not really lasting as long as you would like. So with the number plates for the belly pan, we have this one here, which is that locates on the front, and you might opt for this based on the likes of the exhaust. A lot of them that I've seen on the R3s, there'll be a larger cutout for the exhaust. If it's a aftermarket type and it sweeps out a little further. So these have been designed to suit the YRD fairings. So again, just cleaning the fairings in the surrounding area, especially the belly pan. You know, we might be holding on to it, and on the inside, if it's a used belly pan, the likelihood is that there's some lube or oil or something like that there from the the maintenance of the bike. I will take the belly pan off as well to apply decals, basically because it's sweeping in underneath, and you want to be able to get a really good gauge on making sure that it's the angle and the placement is exactly where you want to be. So it does tend to want to slide around a little, but I still prefer this rather than keeping the belly pan on the bike. So we'll go with applying these first. So familiarize yourself with where it's going to go. So I can see here the shape. This follows the line of the bottom, and then there's the sweep and curve on the front, and I can see that nothing clashes in this area. There will be some universal number plates available, and the likelihood is they'll have to be trimmed with a knife or something like that, but these ones here are made specifically for the R3. So what I would do in this case is, this here's the critical area to line up. So I would remove backing paper off this side. So just about, probably about 50 mils, so whenever it's in place, it's not going anywhere. So we are free to get this lined up perfectly where we want. And if you did have an extra pair of hands, that would be ideal, but you can manage by yourself. So now I'm happy with where it is on the bottom and on the side. So now I will just fix this end piece in place, have another look in case any adjustments are needed. And then what can be used at this stage is a squeegee, because this is a nice flat surface. So you can see with the belly pan wanting to slide around, I'm having to hold on, including the other side. So I just want to be mindful that I'm not using my fingers here to lift this decal anymore. Probably just want to use a little bit of heat here. All right, so, and then you would just go and do the exact same on the other side. Now the install for the number plates for the belly pan, the tail end. So as mentioned before, that these are templated to suit the YRD fairings. So they're a pretty perfect fit, but you'll just want to check the exhaust that you have, that there might be an extra cutout or something like that, and if that's going to go into where your number would be, then possibly better to have the number towards the front or on the tail if the championship you race in allows for it. So with this, so here's the critical area that we want to follow. So we will just remove area of this backing paper here, so we can keep it held out. We can move this around, get it held in place, and then we'll lead it up and apply it there. So that there's a sort of process you approach the decals with, either like this or with the nose, where you take the backing paper out of the center. So you can see, because there's about 50 mil, there's enough surface area where this isn't going to want to move up or down. and same with this side. So you can see a little air bubble, and with the air release adhesive, that there will allow the air to escape. If you just apply a little bit of pressure on it, and then slowly you'll just feel it spreading out of the way. So now you can check and see if they look nice and even, which they look pretty good to me. And you can get the belly pan back onto the bike.